Ladies and gentlemen, it has been done. For the first time since 1991, a wide receiver has become the Heisman. The best wide receiver in all of college football right now is now the best player in all of college football right now. Give it up for Devonta Smith for winning the Heisman. It happened. I cannot be more happy for him. I cannot be more happy for myself because this was a guy that I was really pushing for. I love the wide receiver position, and to see a guy of this caliber play the position as well as he did, to go out there and win the Heisman, absolutely amazing feeling for me and for him and for all of you Devonta Smith fans out there that he has won the Heisman. Or if you're just a fan of the position or just a fan of the sport and you're sick of constantly seeing a quarterback win the Heisman at the quarterback position, we have a wide receiver to win the Heisman. It's just an amazing feeling. As I do with all of my videos where something really, really good happens, I have to do a merch drop. Guys, definitely go get my Trophy Remix shirts in our store right now. We have options for either $30 or $15 depending on what you want. We got the Trophy Remix ones. We got ones with just the trophy on it. Amazing quality. You guys have been giving me absolutely great support on the merch, and you guys have loved it so far. Like, I haven't got one single bad review yet. All of you guys say that the quality is amazing, the price is amazing, all of that. So I really appreciate, to any of you guys who have bought the merch, appreciate it. But for you who haven't, definitely go get some of those Trophy Remix shirts. They are so nice, amazing. That design took me forever. I put a lot of hard work into that. So definitely go celebrate with this with me and get a Trophy Remix shirt. Devonta Smith, in this video, obviously we're doing my live reaction. We're getting in all the stats. We're getting in all of the, just talking about all of his game log and everything. We're going to compare him to how Desmond Howard did in his season. It's a good time here. I am so happy that Devonta Smith won the Heisman. Let's get into his stats from the season. 105 receptions for 1,641 yards, 15.6 average per catch, and then 22 touchdowns. 20 of those were receiving. You had one rushing touchdown and then one on a punt return. Outstanding season, especially in only a 10-game season. So far, he's only played 11 games. I did count, or no, he played, I'm pretty sure that should be 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so 12 games, because on top of the 10-game regular season, you had the SEC Championship, and then you had the Rose Bowl. I did count the Rose Bowl in this game. Even though it says 2020 stats, just know I did include the Rose Bowl because I think that was a pretty good game for him and adding onto his stats, even though it didn't help with the Heisman voting because the Heisman votes were due on the 21st and the conference championships were on the 19th, I'm pretty sure. I had to throw it in there. So let's take a look at some of his games. He started off pretty slow for the Alabama Crimson Tide this season. Now, a slow start for him is a pretty good start for any other wide receiver. Missouri only had 8 receptions for 89 yards, no touchdowns. Then Texas A&M, 6 receptions for 63 yards, 1 touchdown. Then the next week, he really started to get going. He had 13 receptions for 164 yards and 1 touchdown at Ole Miss. The next week, going up against Georgia, that big blockbuster game, the night CBS game, which was absolutely amazing game. Tied going into halftime, and Alabama was able to pull away with it at the end. You had 11 receptions, 167 yards for 2 touchdowns in that game. Tennessee Volunteers at Tennessee only went 7 for 73, no touchdowns in that one, but then he came back at home against Mississippi State, had an absolutely unbelievable game there, had 11 receptions for 203 yards and 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns in that game for Devonta Smith. Next game, going up against Kentucky, he had 9 receptions for 144 yards with 2 touchdowns. Next week, the Iron Bowl against Auburn, you had 7 receptions, 171 yards for 2 touchdowns. LSU obviously had a monster game, 8 receptions for 231 yards for 3 touchdowns. That was the most receiving yards he had all season high. They rested him for the Arkansas game. You didn't really see him get all too much action. That's why he only had 3 receptions for 22 yards. And then in the Florida game, obviously he had another big game. 15 receptions. That was the most he had all season long for 184 yards for 2 touchdowns. And then obviously in the past recent Rose Bowl going up against Notre Dame, he had 7 receptions for 130 yards, 3 touchdowns. Alabama is a team that I followed all season because if you've watched this channel, I follow a ton of SEC football. I mainly cover SEC football on this channel. So obviously, if I'm going to cover SEC football, You want to cover the primetime games and the really good games of the week, and most of the time, at least 50% of the time, that is going to feature the Alabama Crimson Tide in that game. So I saw a lot of Devonta Smith this season. Unbelievable. Especially just watching, even though that this Rose Bowl, I said again, this Rose Bowl had nothing to do with the Heisman votes or anything. If he didn't win the Heisman after that Rose Bowl performance, even though it didn't count for the Heisman voting, it would have been a tragedy. It would have been a really, really bad shame, because he is a rock for Mac Jones. He is a rock on that offense for Alabama. And he's just, the way he plays, the way that he's able to make everything look so easy is absolutely unbelievable. Like, a play that I remember from that Rose Bowl was Mac Jones they were at about near midfield, or they were just at their 40 or something. Mac Jones gets hit as he throws. His arm gets hit as he flutters the ball up. The ball is just up in the air. Any other wide receiver, in my opinion, any other quarterback or whatever, that's going to be a pick. The ball was just floating up there. There was tons of time for a defender to step in there and go and get the ball. Devonta Smith just jumps up, climbs the ladder, catches that ball, brings it down, and acts like it's absolutely nothing. His first reception, his first touchdown of that game was just a simple, I think it was a hitch route or something, to the outside. He gets the ball, and he just slips by every single defender for Notre Dame for a 30-yard touchdown or something like that. He is just so elusive. There's a reason why they call him the Slim Reaper, because he is just absolutely unbelievable. He's just so good at escaping defenders. He's so good at catching the ball. All around amazing wide receiver. Let's take a look at how Desmond Howard did in that 1991 season, where he was able to bring the Heisman home. Obviously, Desmond Howard from the College Game Day, the show that we all love. Well, most of us love. I know that there might be some people out there that feel differently about College Game Day. But 1991, the Michigan Wolverines wide receiver played 12 games, 62 receptions, 985 yards, 15.9 average per catch, 19 touchdowns, and then he had, what else did he have? He had 2 other rushing touchdowns. So in total, he would have had 21 touchdowns in that season for Michigan. What did Devonta have? Devonta had 22, and that's after 12 games. Devonta had 22 touchdowns. Desmond Howard had 21. Receiving wise, Devonta out-received him in terms of yards by about 700 receiving yards, which is absolutely crazy. Receptions, Devonta had about 50 more receptions or so, 40 more receptions than Desmond Howard did. So if you see the lineup there, obviously college football, back in 1991, I wasn't even around then, but back in 1991, I know that it was a completely different game back then, and I know for a wide receiver to put up those numbers back then, that was absolutely huge. So obviously, Devonta having bigger numbers now, you can't just line them up against these numbers and say, oh yeah, Devonta's way better, of course he deserves to win the Heisman if we got this wide receiver a Heisman. The game style was completely different back then, but even with the current offensive play style that we have now, and even the current dominance that we have at the quarterback position, Devonta Smith was still the go-to guy for Alabama the whole season. Even when they had Jalen Waddle, I'd say that Devonta Smith was still the lead guy. He was still the number one receiver. He was still the guy that was going to go up and make the big catches. Jalen Waddle, amazing on his feet. He's able to get into space, and he's a fast guy, elusive guy, huge in the special teams. But still, Devonta Smith in the receiving game, absolutely lethal, and I still think he's wide receiver number 1 on Alabama, and I think a lot of Alabama fans would definitely agree with me on that. What else do I have to say about this guy? Watching him the last couple of years has been an absolute, even though I'm not an Alabama fan, I'm not an LSU fan, even though I got the jersey back there. I got the former Heisman back there, 2019 Heisman, Joe Burrow back there. I know Alabama fans aren't going to be too happy about me about that, but you can see I'm a huge Gamecocks fan. And Alabama's dominated the SEC for the last bunch of years. When Alabama has a chance to lose against a team that I don't really hate, anytime Alabama's playing Clemson, I cheer for Alabama. I cheered for Alabama against Notre Dame. Alabama's actually a team that I've progressively got to like even more, but a lot of people have a problem with the media coverage that Alabama gets and how people are constantly talking good about them. And I just say that, they deserve every single bit of the positivity that they received in the media, because this team this season, what this offense has been able to do, what guys like Devonta Smith, Mac Jones, and Najee Harris have been able to do in a shortened season, in a COVID season, is truly remarkable, and they deserve every single bit of the hype. So I'm so happy that not only that Devonta Smith won it, but at least someone on that Alabama team won it. I was not going to be happy if Trevor Lawrence or Kyle Trask won. Actually, I wouldn't mind Kyle Trask, but I think all in all, for an 8-4 team compared against a currently right now undefeated team who is looking very, very likely to go on to win a national championship, for a wide receiver to take that home makes me feel really, really good, because an 8-4 team going on to have a Heisman winner is a bit iffy in my opinion. Even though they would have been 8-3 when the voters voted. It's just my opinion. And of course, he had a terrible game against Oklahoma, which isn't going to affect him in the Heisman voting. I feel like I'm repeating that over and over again. But the Heisman votes went in on December 21st. So any game after that did not affect this. But I am really, really pleased and just happy that this guy named Devonta Smith has been able to progress over the years. Even as soon as he walked into that Alabama facility, he was a go-to guy. Even though you had guys like Calvin Ridley, you had guys like Jerry Jeudy, you guys had guys like Henry Ruggs, you had guys like Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith was still able in all of those seasons. Like, we can go back and take a look at some of his seasons, like his past season stats. In all those seasons where you have first-round NFL talent all around you, in the depth chart, 5 players deep, you're still able to put up the numbers that you were. So, obviously, his freshman season, only 8 receptions, 160 yards for 3 touchdowns. And then that would have been, that was the national championship year. That would have been the year that he did catch that one against Georgia to win it all. I'm pretty sure it was that season, because 2017 led into 2018 that season. So, that was the season where Devonta Smith caught the national championship walk-off overtime winning touchdown catch. Absolutely unbelievable game there, and an amazing way to close it off. The next season, he goes 42 receptions for 693 yards, 16.5 average for 6 touchdowns. 2019 goes 68 receptions, 1,256 yards, 18.5 average in that season, 14 touchdowns. And obviously caps off this season with 105 receptions for 1,641 receiving yards, 15.6 average reception, and 22 touchdowns. I'm out of breath. That was a lot of talking about Devonta Smith, but he deserves every single word and every single breath out of my mouth, because he was absolutely unbelievable in this season, and I am so pleased that he was able to walk away with the Heisman Trophy. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you love college football as much as I do, hit that sub button down below. Hit the like button. Comment anything about Devonta Smith or college football. I'd love to talk some college football with you guys. And thank you for watching. And definitely come back next time.